Is this working? Hi, thank you very much. That was a very nice introduction, and then there goes 5 minutes of my talk. So now I'll start over. And I will get a little bit personal because I wasn't going to go there, but I think it is really important. I have a lot of qualitative things I want to say, and I have a lot of quantitative things I want to say about my background and what I think we are all doing here and what we can do here. I did have my career in Wall Street. I went to Columbia Business School during the 90s. I went to Goldman Sachs doing fixing derivatives in the 90s. I really was completely at the center of the entire financial system and very much the modern financial system that is slowly breaking down. When I moved to San Francisco, I switched to private client services and used a little bit more of I'd been a psych major. So this was really, I'd started as a psych major and then I'd become an econ major. So I was able to put the two together and deal with private clients. And that was really quite fulfilling and quite interesting. I was at Morgan Stanley running a pretty big team, and one of the reasons that this slide up here has a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge is because I've done the bulk of my career since 2000 in San Francisco. I'm a New Yorker. I thought that I would spend my career there, but this has been an incredibly interesting place to do this work. San Francisco reminds me of Wall Street in the 80s. It's a little bit young in the 80s. But still, it is a place where there's so much money, and there's so much talk about money, and there's so much emphasis on power that I really kind of wanted to have this behind me to a reminder of really what is going on and what really is driving this. Any of you know San Francisco, it's not necessarily the impact hub. There certainly is places that is important. So when I was at Morgan Stanley running a team and the markets fell apart and we knew exactly what was going to happen, I also had this personal situation where my eldest son, I had just had a third child, so I had my baby on the windowsill, the only woman on the floor at Morgan Stanley, and my oldest son started falling. And he basically became severely disabled over the next bunch of years. So here I had a career in Wall Street, understood exactly what was going on, understood exactly how we were on the brink of complete collapse because I was there building it. We all knew it was going to come, but you got so sick of waiting for it to come, you figured eventually we'd all throw in the towel, it wasn't going to come, and then it came. And it was incredibly interesting. And so I very much woke up at that period of time, having the quantitative experience of understanding what was going on in the markets, and then that qualitative experience of starting to understand what is love, what is achievement, what really matters in the world, what do the people around me really care about? And also starting to understand the infrastructure of our society. My son's undiagnosed. So when you start going to Stanford and NIH and Harvard and all these places with the smartest doctors and they aren't able to help you, it becomes pretty easy to go back to Morgan Stanley and listen to James Gorman or go back to Goldman Sachs, listen to Lloyd Blankfein and think, you know what, I've known these people for a long time and I'm not really sure they know what they're talking about either. So I founded a company, a financial services company, and we do private client, and we do trading, and we do asset management, and we base it on 4 factors of integrity, collaboration, engagement, and client sustainability. And let me tell you that back in 8, 9, 10, 11, as you all have said, when I was thinking of this idea, and I spent so much time in the conference room just talking to people, I didn't think anyone had any clue what I was talking about. This was a really crazy concept to go out and say, let's build a financial company that's actually based on those tenets and those values, because none of those values were surrounding me. Absolutely not. So it's really nice to have come in contact with Amber and Jeff and to start coming into a world that's really starting to understand, and to be asked to talk about building a new financial marketplace is like a dream come true. I mean, I couldn't imagine this in 2010 that this would happen, although I could completely imagine it because it was incredibly obvious to me that the infrastructures that we had in place were not working. The value system and the factors that motivated everyone around me were based on all the things that we can imagine. They were based on making money. They were based on being motivated to make money. They were based on being rewarded to make money. And that's all that mattered. And as a young person growing up in a career on Wall Street, that's what you did. So what I want to talk about a little bit is what we're really up to today, which is what I call building a new socio-economic model. I mean, you know, we'll get to this a little bit more, but if anyone comes to my office and calls impact investing, everyone who works for me knows that I will scream and pretty much throw them out. because I don't want to talk about impact investing. I want to talk about a new socioeconomic model. I want to talk about a new infrastructure that is replacing the infrastructure that I came out of, very simply. And this is not so hard to achieve because all I have to do is change this value system. So if you break down socioeconomic, okay, socio is society, behaviors of society. Economic is a model of processes for a desired effect. Okay, I said that the other day to someone. They're like, I know what you just said. So I don't know how many people are following me on that. But this is, we need to just look at this. What are our values of our society? What is our economics? And what are the processes that we are all creating to have a desired effect? So when we go to impact investing, we're just like, we're skipping it all. Like we're here. So I want to just back up this conversation and go broader and say, okay, we've all grown up in this system that has certain factors, that has certain motivations. Some of us are younger, some of us are older. And while I love the millennial conversation, like they didn't grow up in that system. So that's great, and so they're going to ask of us a whole lot of things. But a lot of us did grow up in that system, so for us to really change it today in groups like this is to really break down the different factors of what's going on and address each of those, and there's a million of them. So, I mean, it gets very difficult. So I'll back up a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about this system. Capital markets was devised to have positive impact. I mean, you can go back to Aristotle, who said in BC that the accumulation of wealth to provide for your family is honorable, and anything past that is dishonorable. And I could go to every single economist, from him to the French economist, to even Adam Smith. Every single economist has said this about capital markets. It's supposed to flow well. It's supposed to create value. It's supposed to be moving the planet in a new place. So I'm going to keep kind of hammering on this, that like impact investing is a fine thing to talk about it, but this is just investing. This is just figuring out how we recreate those processes for a better desired effect, because in the last 30 years it's got blown out. And some of the things, besides having woken up with my own personal situation in '08, is my first job out of college. I went to Michigan, University of Michigan, and I went to Chicago, and I worked in the futures market. And I was just blown away at how cool it was that if you're a farmer and you need to get your bushel of corn, whatever, in June, and you need $30 a bushel to make sure that you could feed your family and sustain your farm, that you actually, this is just devised in most of our lifetime. This is a very, very modern concept. And like this, I believe it's the 70s. Someone would give you a contract and say, here, I promise you $30 a bushel on June 1st. And you're like, great, okay. I can now walk away. And so that created the derivatives market, which is actually a really cool, amazing thing. Like, let's all remember that like our capital markets in our modern time is beautiful. It's fun. I mean, I love it. Like, it's the coolest thing. It's just, what did we do with that? And how did computers change that? So that was probably that was like 90, 91. And then when I came out of business school and I was working in the fixing derivatives market in New York City at Goldman Sachs, the center of the world, like, if you went to Columbia, that's all you wanted to do, is that the biggest clients on that desk were Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And obviously those are the institutions that are trying to create home ownership in our country. And like, I'm gonna massively simplify this, that could be a good thing, right? The whole point is to try to get people who can't afford housing into their housing. And so they have these big, huge portfolios of loans, of mortgages that they own. Someone has a mortgage, they have the ability to prepay that, which is someone has the option to pay it. So we came in on that desk and we just hedged that risk. We basically took all their billions of dollars and said, we're going to match it. If you're short optionality, we're going to sell you optionality, and we're going to do a swap in the interest rates. Don't have to follow me on that at all. The only thing that's important to follow is that had value. Like, that was really cool. That was going to make sure that these government agencies were sustainable, continued doing what they were doing. It's amazing what I witnessed in front of me. I watched the 27-year-old, quant guy become a partner because he learned how to basically buy this product from Merrill Lynch at $12 and sell it to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for $22. Like, that's it. He'd buy it at 12, sell it at 22. Ding, 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 ding. And a lot of this came out in 08 after the crisis. They're all colluding in the hotel rooms, whatever it may be. But here I am in my late 20s, and these people are all being lauded, and they're making so much money, and everyone's cheering, and these guys walk on water. This is the value system that when every single one of us walk out of this room, that we remember this. This is no more complicated. Is that left or done? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I could talk for, I have no idea how long I've been talking. That these are value systems, and these are value systems that are incredibly inherent in the system that we have in our lifetime. And these are value systems when, I forget his name, talking about his son with the car. I mean, it's so fascinating. Yeah, the generation coming up, they have a completely different set of value systems. But that's not gonna change our socioeconomic model until we do today in these rooms talking about it and trying to make change. So basically, where do we go from here, and what do we do? The way that I have chosen, there's so many different bullet points of talking about this, but the way that we've chosen to kind of focus on at Mount Calm and our clients, and what I truly believe is the most important thing right now, is sustainability of people. Every single one of you are gonna leave today, and you've had a great conference, and you'll have had great ideas, and you'll go back to your job, and you'll figure out how you're gonna affect change. But what's really on your mind? I just got that huge credit card bill for my vacation, or I really need a new car, or we're about to move, or I have so much money I gotta figure out how to invest it. We all have extremely personal, important things in our own bullet points of our value system of what we care about. And I really believe the first line of impact is to make all of you sustainable. So if we unpack the word sustainable a little bit, because we all throw it around, and I thought about this the other day, and it kind of never occurred to me, which was strange, is that sustainability is part of a word of unstable. So stable, unstable. And if we look around what's going on in our global economy, or our global geopolitical situation with Brexit and what's going on in our country, we have a lot of people that are unstable. They're just economically unstable. Okay, massive factor in our socioeconomic model. So that's really what we're here talking about, is how do we create stability for the people? How do we create sustainability so that everyone can walk around on this planet and say, okay, I know how I'm gonna eat, I know what I'm gonna know how I'm gonna feed my kids, and know I'm gonna educate them. It runs the gamut, because we have all sorts of different stratas of economic means. And I'm not saying that we need to make everyone wealthy, but this is incredibly important, that the sustainability of people is really the key line of defense of how we start going about doing this. So now we can look at investment products, and we can look at the fact that what we're talking about is not impact investing, we're just talking about investing. This is just investing. So I think in a way, and Amber will, well, we already did at lunch, go at me on this, is that in a way I feel like we're creating our own niche, like we're creating our own problem, but continually talking about impact investing. This is value investing. What's a good investment that creates sustainability for people? Okay, now what is it for if someone has 10 grand, or someone has 100 million or $2 billion? Tim talked about volatility in the first panel today, and God, I could unpack this for a million years. Like, the markets aren't volatile. The problem is they're not viable investment products. Nobody in this room who needs 100 grand a year to retire so they can go off and do whatever they want to do, because again, everyone's here and they're super interested, but we all have personal lives, we all have things we want to do in our life, is really gonna say with confidence that I got all my money in the US stock market or domestic global stock market, and I know it's gonna return me 5% a year, year over year, and I'm gonna be just fine to go do what I want. Not a chance. And so when we talk about volatility, and I'm talking here about building a new financial marketplace and all the things we're gonna hammer in, I'll go in a little bit more detail now, and then we're gonna do in the afternoon sessions of things that we can do to solve this, is we need to create investment products for our own sustainability. So I'm not talking impact here, I'm talking about what serves people. What serves our ability to go home at night with our shoulders down a little bit and say, okay, I trust in this marketplace. And that's what, now the wave is gone, but this triple revolution of the millennials and the transfer of wealth, this is all what this is about, is to figure out how we trust what's going on. Okay, so we've talked about the value systems. So that in a way is easy, because no one here in this room is going around money for the sake of money. And money for the sake of money means I'm just investing and I just want to make a profit. And I watched that my whole career. I mean, the smartest people in the world, all lauded, all the top of food chain, fine. I think we all pretty much gotten that figured out. So now what we really need to figure out is how do we create these products that actually make sense, that people can trust. So there's lots and lots of different ideas on this. The one thing that I can start with, I'm going to talk about 3 different things, is one concept is just the concept of cash flow and fixed income, okay? Very simple. First line is, people say, well, if I just have equities, what should I own? Own some debt. You don't need to buy Netflix stock and not have any idea how the computers and the hedge funds and the volatility traders and the speedy guys are going to do with that stock. Buy a Netflix bond that's paying you 5% for 5 years. Now you can make an articulate decision if Netflix is going to pay you back after 5 years. You need to actually go back to fundamentals. This is key. Back to fundamentals. What are we actually investing in? We've all touched on this today. But what is it we are actually owning? This is the conversation I want to have. And I would love for everyone to catch themselves a little bit when they say impact when they leave here. Because we're talking about value investing. We're talking about things that make sense. So I think a lot of this and a lot of the conversations and a lot of things we can talk about this afternoon is I think debt is really kind of the key to how we kind of get this going. Any investment that we can actually narrow the variables. We can check the boxes on what it is we own. We no longer, and I've been doing this for 25 years, and there was a time when I could say to a client, I understand the equity markets, and here you're going to diversify into large caps growth and small cap international, and here's the diversification, the correlation, all the stuff you learn in business school, a capital asset pricing model, efficient frontier. I mean, again, these are total terms that no one may not understand, but this is what the financial industry used to prove that these are viable investment vehicles. Let's think about what it is we own, and what are the risks, and what is the end result. And now we're starting to unpack some of these processes for desired result that comes back into our economic model, and we match that with our social behavior and good values. This is how we build a new socioeconomic model. So I think that that's incredibly important. And we need to keep building them. I mean, gosh, I get to this point in my talks all the time, and I hear people in the room like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know, come to Mount Calm. Like, I can do it, but like, that's not the answer. So democratizing this and all the things that we've talked about, we need to continue to build these financial products. The other thing that's come around lately, and one of the things that we've been working on is we have the socially responsible bonds. That's great. I mean, that's kind of a next derivative that's pretty easy to start investing. And I'm not going to mention that they're lower in return, because they're not lower in return. I mean, you could very easily look at Starbucks' new green bond, and you can very easily match it to an equivalent bond in the investment grade market and see that it's giving exact same yield with exact same risk. Again, I'm using a lot of terms, excuse me. I can definitely go down that route pretty quickly. We need to keep thinking outside the box on what's out there in the public markets, what's out there in the private markets. There's a lot of people here who are advising wealthy families. We have, there's the crowdfunding model. We got this whole thing in between that's got to be filled in for this new economic model to work, because what we have now of those elements doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. And it doesn't work because we have impact, because it doesn't work for you or you. It's not working for any of you in this room. Unless everyone here has got a fixed income portfolio that's rock solid, that's paying them enough cash flow that they can retire off of. So this is really, really important. Let me ask another question. How many people in this room have everything they own, all their assets, including their bank account, that's 100% impact? I'm not raising my hand either. I mean, there you go. Like, that's it. Like, if we've learned anything, like, that's it. We can't even be who we want to be because we don't have the products to do it, because we are all too scared in this room to do it, because we have to make sure we have money to live. We had to spend money to get here. We had to spend money to stay here, fly, whatever it may be. So this is really, really key to kind of the bottom of thinking about how do we create this new financial marketplace, and how do we create sustainable products. So the other interesting point that I've been thinking about, and then I'll open it up to questions, is, we do, and I'm hearing a lot of this, in all the conferences I go to on impact, is, the wealthy people, we've got to get that, we'll get them to change, or we'll get them to care, and then they put the money in. I think you can already guess that I'm not in the business of convincing anyone to try to have impact. We certainly try to have engagement with our clients, and we certainly try to get them there, but I know there's such a myriad of emotional aspects that bring people to that or don't bring people to that I want to scale way quicker than that. So I will have that aspect, but I want to create, as we talked about today, a car that someone just wants to drive. They don't have to know what's in the engine. They can know that it's not spewing out bad chemicals and that it's clean. But at the end of the day, people just want to drive that car and go to their grandma's or go see their kid. So continuing to build this car. So you have the concept kind of this just trickle down. And this is, I know what lots of people in this room are up to it, so that's great. People who are super wealthy, care about impact, put it in awesome things, and there's amazing private equity, and we do that at Mountcalm too. That's amazing. Now there's this concept of trickle up, and what I'm trying to work on too, just from where I'm taking on this, and this democratization of this, is how to kind of get products into the hands of people, is also trying to securitize some money into the hands of people who don't have the money. And this kind of starting from the bottom, giving money into hands of, I met recently with a group in San Francisco dealing with the people who make $1 and under. Have you heard of the Generation Project? These are projects that are actually going out giving assets to people who make like $2 and less, people who can't find food for 4 days. And trying to figure, God, I've got millions and millions and millions of dollars at the office right now. I don't know where to put it because I will not put it in the equity markets. Today maybe a little bit. It's too speculative. It's not an investment vehicle. It's not serving anyone. It's not necessarily getting to the fundamentals of the end result. So how do these are some of the questions. We've got so much capital in the world. How do we figure out how to get the capital into the hands of a woman in Bangladesh with 6 kids who was just given 5 cows, and it's been proven that she will do 3 times the revenue in 3 years? That's a bond. I'll take that all day long. My clients will take that all day long when we're going to get 1.5% this year in equities, with the risk of a 30% volatility. So these are some of the ideas of, we've got all this amazing wealth here, and we've got the wave coming, and the transfer of wealth, and the value system, all these things that people want, but also trying to figure out how to create these products that get into the hands of people who need it, and also get into our own portfolios, so we walk out of here feeling comfortable and safe and better about our own lives. And then the way that we talk to our kids or our spouses or anyone else, we are sustainable as people, financial people. And that will create sustainability in the world, and I believe that will create a capital market system and a new socioeconomic model where we've solved all the problems. So I think at this point, I'll open it up to questions. There's a lot of things that I touched on.
Here comes one. Hi, Shimon Mukherjee from the Provincial Ministry of Finance. It sounded like what you were talking about are structural issues in global capital markets. And in order to achieve what you're talking about, your vision, which I think is a laudable one, does it not imply that there needs to be structural changes to those same financial markets in terms of the regulatory environment? And if impacting investing, is it more of a trickle up or a trickle down? And would it be more effective to have it be a trickle down by changing the regulatory and legal frameworks that allow for the kind of activities that you're talking about that have perhaps perverted the capital markets and caused problems in terms of unsustainability and volatility?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, policy and regulatory is key. What I like to focus on, though, right now, today, is using the pipes that we have and figure out how to use those. And we've been making more headway. Every time I've tried to do something at my financial services company, I was told, no, you can't do it, and you can do it within the regulatory. We have great pipes in our system. I really believe that the value systems really skewed that. So the first line is to use what we have, ask questions, get smart people, get people who understand this value system, lawyers, securities lawyers, people who understand capital markets, and there's not a ton of them, to work within the existing system. And then yes, we absolutely, I mean, at the end of the day, most of the general public cannot invest in anything more unique because of regulatory, but that's coming down pretty quickly because they can only go into mutual funds, and mutual funds are generally only equities. So by all means, yes, that's not my arena, and I'm not taking on that battle at all. But of absolutely 100%, the policies and the regulatories will have to catch up with this. But right now, as we talk about the movement, we can go out and do it today. I mean, we're all doing it today with the existing structure that we have. Wall Street didn't lock down the structure. They just created a certain value system that they're living by. We don't have to live by it.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry, who? Back there? We'll give you first.
Heather, Venture Lab.
Hi.
In the U.S., what percentage of your market has a similar perspective to you, or are you sort of the leading edge? Just how important is it in the entire market, the kind of focus you have and the products you carry?
Not many at all. At all. I'm shocked. When I left Morgan Stanley and opened in 2012, I literally thought I'd have a trail of people coming behind me, because they would imagine like those institutions are just not going to survive the way that margins are trading, and especially lately with all of the higher capital margins for the fixed income departments, they're not able to hold inventory. There's so many aspects of what's going on Wall Street that is tearing it down slowly but surely. But I see, this is where I think it really comes to the heart. I think to have been successful in the capital markets and on Wall Street, you had to really believe in money. Like you had to have a certain value system. I had it. I mean, I was born and raised in New York. I was told you make money, and you have to have something that wakes you up. And I know there's a lot of people in this room trying to wake people up, but none of us really know the human element of what really wakes people up. And I think that I call it a trance sometimes. I think there's such a trance on our existing infrastructure in the capital markets that so many people, especially in San Francisco, they all want to go around it. I'll go to these fintech conferences or the where they'll talk about new currencies, and there won't be a currency trader up on the panel. I mean, the currency market is the oldest, most liquid, largest market on our planet. We want to redo our currency market. Let's talk to the traders. Let's use the existing infrastructure. But yes, unfortunately, there's very, very few people who come from my background with my views. But work as hard as I can. Do as fast as I can.
Hi, Ushnish Sangupta, University of Toronto. So somebody earlier was talking about how the majority of business students want to get into careers that have impact, but they're not going to end up there, right? And I did an MBA, and most of my colleagues go into traditional professions because those are the only jobs available, and that's the only way to make yourself financially sustainable. Like, what advice? And I'm coming across a lot of kind of younger people saying, "Hey, we really want to do this, but we can't because we cannot afford it in terms of being able to pay rent and so on." What advice would you give somebody like me who are advising up-and-coming young social entrepreneurs on how they sustain themselves?
I would say the same thing. I'd take away these lines. I'd take away this word impact. We live in a socio-economic model, and it all needs to be moved. I just told the story about when I got on the floor at Goldman Sachs. I thought it was so impactful. I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought capital markets were doing really neat things because the actual work that was being done was great. It was surrounding yourself. So the two things I would say for advice is find what you love, find what piece of our socioeconomic model you want to be a part of, what floats your boat, number one. And then number two, do your best job to why that was on. Do your best job to surround yourself with people who have as close a value system as you can. Yes, I mean, again, it's like these lines, like you're a good company, you're a bad company. It's all this big continuum. We're all just moving it forward, and we all know because of the triple evolution we're going to get there. So find the people that that resonate with you. Do the work you love and the people that resonate as close as you possibly can. Because really, they're all traditional companies. We just got to move them piece by piece, which we will do by just being us. Is that it?
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you very much.
Let's give Holly a round of applause. Thank you.